Innovative volunteerism. Aware. Eziko. Rise up. You and me are the solution to these challenges. Oh yeah. Rise up. You and me are the solution to these challenges. Oh yeah. Innovative and volunteerism, food security and youth unemployment, climate actions and selfless solutions. These are things that we need to engage for. When I lift up my eyes, I see people still living in affliction. Mothers and children go to bed without food on their table. Youth unemployment, the biggest statistic. From headlines every in Africa. Climate change impact us in everywhere, whether it's flood or drought.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this conversation today, which we are going to be looking deep into a topic that each and every one of us needs to have a hand on. And for those who are joining us, you are on a mindset spot where we converse ideas and solutions that can turn challenges into opportunity. In today's digital age, social media platforms are a do or die, as they say. They are a double-edged sword. On one side, the social media platforms, whether we're talking Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and all the platforms that we know, LinkedIn, they are incredible tools for connecting, sharing, and learning. They have the power to mobilize communities. They have the power to spread awareness. These tools do have the power to catalyze social change. On the flip side, they can also be a breeding ground for misinformation, a breeding ground for digital addiction for many, and even cyberbullying. Today, I am joined by my co-host, Daniel Afumbom Munang. Daniel, welcome to this conversation today. And as I was putting the chapeau, today we are exploring how we can tip the scales towards the positive, leveraging social media as a force for good, especially among the young demographics who are the digital natives of our time. What says you are for welcome again to this show?
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad to be here. And throughout this conversation, we'll be talking about using social media for social impact and the type of social impact that one can make through engaging within these platforms.
Excellent. So let's just kick off. We have seen access to social media platforms have not only been available to the few, but to every age group, the youth, the elders. So how has social media evolved into a platform for social change? And what is your take as a young person who is engaged in social media anyway? What can you say about it?
Well, I think that social media is a really good platform and it has a variety of uses. And I think that many people just use social media for leisure and to pass time, which is there's nothing wrong with that. But for people who are trying to make a brand out of social media, there's one or two streams that people can go. One of the streams is the more popular stream, which is using social media as a place to bring others down and attempt to bring yourself up. And the other stream, which is the stream that many people should strive to be in, is the stream of promoting ideas and using social media as a place that is not toxic and as a place where other people can share ideas which can innovate societies.
Absolutely. Mercedes Aye is saying that social media for social impact, that is a timeless conversation. So the point he is bringing up is just what you've said, which is social media has transitioned from simple communication platforms to robust arena for advocacy and advocacy mobilization for this. So through hashtags and viral campaigns, individuals and organizations, as you speak today, can now raise awareness. They can raise funds, they can support for various causes. You said something which is important, that yes, it is a tool, and most of the time is used as not just an opportunity to bring transformational positive change, but sometimes to create a negative environment in terms of misinformation. Do you think that a youth who have access to these tools are missing an opportunity to create and leave their own legacy from a positive dimension?
Well, I think that it depends on the individual. However, the majority of youth who use it like recreationally, that's fine. But like for the people who are trying to be entrepreneurial and base their brand off social media, I think that there are many more steps that the youth have to go to improve the way they maximize social media. However, I think that it just solely depends on your purpose on it, because if you're trying to make a business and all of your posts are not relating to your business, then that's one thing. So
Yeah, that's one thing. But the point is, first of all, we're talking in an area that is flooded with information, and the advent of this information being spread through social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and even WhatsApp, seems to have made people to become not to become addicted from the perspective of forgetting the nuances of leveraging that to build value and build their names to leave a legacy of positive change. Do you think that there is lack of communication and information that is making people to be aware of the necessity to leverage opportunity rather than miss opportunity by focusing on what may not add value, in this case negativity?
yeah, I think that's a really good point that you brought up, and I think that social media, it's definitely a platform with innovation and communication, but the way that people are communicating their thoughts could be definitely worked on. And it seems like in certain continents, social media is used as a place to express political frustration and negativity rather than a place to stimulate ideas and growth. So yeah.
Absolutely. I think we're having comments coming in from Khalid. Khalid said, interesting. Um, he said, interesting. We have Frederick, who said, um, thank you for the enlightenment. And then we have Maxed Desai, who said, social change, social media for social change, a timely subject to discuss. So now, what I would like us to do is to make sure that we look at, because this discussion is not really happening in its entirety. It's not happening the way it's supposed to happen. And therefore, what I would like us to do is to look at an aspect which is very simple. What are some of the things we can say that have been successful examples where social media did drive positive change? Yes, we know that at least social media have been leveraged to bring some ideas and movements to the forefront. But as a young person who is studying, is there anything you can say that you guys in school have leveraged social media to bring positive change?
Yeah, so I think that there are many movements, for example, the climate change movement, BLM, social justice movements across the world, which have been fueled by social media and a bunch of like-minded individuals coming together. So I think that's an example of how social media has been portrayed in a positive life. But these events have really shown that through communication and through your phone, through your laptop, through your iPad, through even like your Apple Watch, you can still be a part of something bigger. And even in professional settings such as LinkedIn, it also shows it gives people access to see other people's successes, comment on them, and just develop a professional database, a professional group of people who have like-minded goals. And that's what I think. And we also have some comment from Marcel Desailly, which you should pull up. And
Yeah,
as
read it.
so Marcel Desailly says, social media has been democratized, but the information space, one does not necessarily have to visit a country to get a hint of the nature of citizens' characters. How is Africa showing this online? Answer this.
Yes, and that's a very important point that he is bringing up, that social media has democratized the information space, which means that you don't need to go to Europe, America, or go to Central Africa, Western, East Africa to be able to access information. By the click of a button and with a hashtag, you can be able to access that information. And therefore, his question is, one does not necessarily have to visit a country to get that. And he said, how is Africa faring or showing online? The discussion of Africa faring or showing online is Africa shows online, but the question should then be, do they show online with the solutions that the continent prefers, or with the complaints and blame game of what the continent is not doing? Which either way is important, but I think the latter takes center stage, which is the gist of the conversation, because if you project problems, you are not going to attract value. If you project value and show the gap of what needs to be done to make a leap in transformational development, then you will attract opportunities, including resources. And therefore, the faring of Africa within the social media space, I think the youthful community and the tech savvy people are very, very vibrant in the space, either using it to abuse others or using it to market sometimes good information, which we must applaud those young people and even the elders who are doing that. But for those who are using it for abusive language, for bullying, and for aggressive rhetoric that is not warranted, are actually misusing the space. Because one of the best things that have happened in the 21st century is for each and every individual to have a space where he or she can be able to sell his or her ideas. So the big question is, are Africans, especially the young people, using these spaces to market themselves so that at least they can create complementarities and attract value in what they do and share ideas? Or are they using it to bite only politicians, abuse others, and think that by having 5 minutes of fame, they can be able to try on? That is not true, and that has never happened. 5 minutes of fame without ideas will only make you lose opportunity rather than gain opportunities. I will add to that.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I feel like the negativity and such a name calling and stuff all over social media, it doesn't help anybody per se, because it's just bringing people down and just creating hurdles throughout the way, in a way that we're supposed to receive togetherness instead, but it's creating a divide. And we have comments from Ashvina, which says youth in Africa can leverage the democratizing power of social media to turn their unique skills and local resources into niche markets with global reach. By mastering digital storytelling and e-commerce, they can sidestep traditional barriers, attract investment, and create sustainable income streams. In essence, social media can be their digital soil for economic growth and empowerment.
Yes, it can be their digital soil for economic empowerment. And that is very, very rightly said, Ashvina. Very good point you are bringing up, loaded with a lot of very positive and practical strategic information that I believe the young people watching can be able to tap into this. As you said, by mastering the digital storytelling. And I underline that with digital storytelling. Storytelling is about solutions, it's about opportunities, it's about your story of a problem and a solution to it, to make others understand your story of uniqueness, your story of value. And I think for the young people listening in the African continent, their stories are actually not just assets, but actually put them within a position in which they can be uniquely positioned around the world, because their stories are unique. And with your unique story, you can explain how a mother in a community in Jinquin has actually survived drought or floods using indigenous knowledge that is peculiar only to that village. That story weaved then to showcase how a solution was brought forth to solve a problem uniquely to that Jinquin village, or Bello, or Com, or Nso, or Nkambe, or Buya, or Eboloa, will then mean that people can be able to listen to you and also try to understand that uniqueness that you're bringing. And then the aspect that Ashvina have mentioned, e-commerce, that's what makes the difference. When you package your solution, it needs to be sold. And social media is already the market for you to sell it. And social media becomes the e-commerce spot for each and everyone to leverage. And I like the aspect that you said that it can sidestep traditional barriers, attract investments, and create sustainable income streams. And in essence, social media can be the digital soil for economic growth. Yes, it is indeed a digital soil. But the big question is, why are they not tapping it, especially the young people, and leveraging the space mostly for negativity sometimes?
I think that a lot of youth are using social media for negativity because it's easy. That's just very, let me just be very honest. Like, it's really easy to be like, oh, I don't like that. But, like, then rather to give someone constructive criticism. So I think that many people are using social media for negativity because it's easy, and it's easy to get a point across, whether it's necessary or not, to bring other people down. And for some people, it's an easy way to increase their self-esteem by bringing someone else's down.
Right, and that's a good point. And I think building on that, one of the aspects is how exactly youth can be motivated to use social media for positive impact, given the fact that we are saying negativity seems to be most of the content that is generated rather than the positivity. But we need to find a way to motivate them. And I'm thinking that encouraging the young people require a mix of education, mentorship, and providing platforms where they can express their opinions. And I think the Mindset Sports, what we are having here, is also the platform where they can express their opinions, and providing platforms where these opinions are expressed and opportunities in terms of what they can be able to drive becomes important. So showcasing success stories of other young change makers can be a very motivating thing. What do you think, Apu?
I think that's a really good point, because if you see other people around your age in your same domain succeeding and being positive impacts, then you'll want to do the same thing. And it'll just create a cycle of positivity rather than a cycle of negativity and a cycle of hate. So I think that by even just by liking someone's post and being like, congratulations if they got a promotion, or even if they post a picture of their vacation, instead of like, oh, you're so rich, being like, oh, that's nice, where is it? By simple stuff like that, you uplift other people, and that encourages other people to uplift other people, and it becomes a cycle of positivity rather than a cycle of hatred and negativity.
Absolutely. Very important point. Very, very important point, which I think is very, very key, especially to ensure that at least we can continuously motivate young people. Now, the other aspect that I think is missing is the advent of technologies like this virtual reality and augmented, as we speak today, with opportunities could enhance the immersive experience of social media, potentially driving more empathetic and impactful online. So the integration of analytical tools, we're talking about AI now, ChatGPT, Copy AI, everything is making young people to somehow leverage that space, not necessarily to create ideas only, but sometimes to create negative messaging. What do you think needs to be done? Because it looks like life is becoming more easy. And like you rightly said, with ease comes retrogression, because ease is the biggest threat to progress. Without effort and dedication, then everything seems easy. And no one seems to be telling others that, look, this pace is bringing an opportunity. What says you?
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I think that it's a lot because with social media and with the development of these artificial intelligence products, it allows life to be more simple. But in reality, although these are good tools, we can't base our entire existence on them, because at the end of the day, the people who created them are human beings who use brain power to make these things. So just like they use brain power to make these things, we have to use our own brain power. I'm not saying we shouldn't use them, because they're obviously good tools, but by fully relying on them, that creates a dangerous path for individuals not to think for themselves.
Yes, but the point again is, before we get to Mercedes Ay's question, is do you think, and I think this is a very important point here, because do you think digital literacy is a major challenge? Because the prevalence of the lack of guidance on how to navigate the digital world seems to be deterring youth from utilizing social media for positive endeavors. And if so, what advice will you give to schools, to parents, to community leaders, to everyone who calls his or herself a leader or an influencer to do? Or do you think these influencers are also part of creating this environment because of the affluence and the kind of, bubble life that nothing seems to be explained on how opportunities can be created?
Yeah, I think that's a
Afu.
really important point, because when you look at it, you see all these influencers. They probably don't know it, it's probably subconscious, but it allows people to think that like, obviously people's lives can be like that too, but then it allows people to think that that's how exactly life is supposed to be. But social media is all about posting the best moments of your life, and that's something people forget. Like, I'm pretty sure Meta's logo, like their slogan is like, for posting the best moments, like for posting happy moments. And people kind of forget that's the key part of social media. And no, it's not the influencers part, because that's what they do. But also, as a consumer of social media, you need to be aware, saying that, oh, this person, they're traveling all the time, blah, 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 but that's not 100% of their life. Because on social media, the very good thing about it is you can post whatever you want to post, and you can post as little or as much as you want. So if you see someone only posting, for example, they're traveling, or you only see them posting like with like new outfits and stuff, and you feel bad, just remember that those people actually have a life outside of social media, and sometimes it's not always what you see on Instagram is like what they're living in real life.
Yes, that is a good point. Before we go to Mercedes, Ali, and Khalid, the point is, you have said on this show that digital footprint is something that people seems not to put a lot of attention into it. Can you explain, for the sake of our viewers, to understand what this is about and how it happens and what they should look out for in brief?
Yeah, so I think I actually mentioned this a while back, like more than 3 months ago, but I know we have some very new viewers, and thanks for watching, thanks for popping by. But I basically said that digital footprint is something that, for example, the internet never forgets, and I think that whatever you post, whether positive or negative, will always be there, and it can either help you or haunt you. So for example, let's say you're applying for a university, and you put in your like application that you had a YouTube channel that was promoting, I don't know, that was advocating for environmental issues. And if that's on social media, and let's say admission officer ABC looks at that, and then that'll probably increase your chances because there's proof showing what you've written. But in the negative perspective of it, would be like, you like 5 years ago said some really out of pocket things on Twitter, and now when you're applying for a job, they look at your tweets and they see something that's a little questionable, then that can harm you. So through digital footprint, I personally don't think digital footprint is necessarily bad. It's just in the sense that you use social media. If you use social media in a positive, uplifting sense, your digital footprint will be perfect, and that could even attract more people to you. But if your digital footprint is a little bit questionable, then that will repel people away from you. So whatever you put out is what you're going to receive. If you put out positive and uplifting and informative stuff, you're going to receive things from that, whether it's a job offer or a uni offer, or even people being more intellectual with you because they know that you have that capacity, rather than if you're leaving questionable stuff, then you're going to get questionable responses.
Excellent. I think that's a very beautiful, Susan way to put it. We have a lot of comments, very exciting, and thanks you all who are viewing and providing comments and suggestions. Excellent. Afu, I'll build on this. Maxed Desai is saying, because you've said something that is very important, nobody should shy away from using the internet and from using social platforms. Pass good information. By then you are building your brand and building a name. Don't put what will come back to haunt you tomorrow. Marcel Desai says, somebody listening at the moment wants to join social media because you've said it's an opportunity to grow and expand brand as well as legacy. Where does one start to brand themselves for solutions?
Well, that's a good point, and I think that that question is really important, because if you're looking to brand yourself for a solution, you start by branding yourself individually, branding your mindset for a solution, not just branding yourself on big platform, branding the way you think. And for example, that even just starts by saying, oh, I can't do this, blah, 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 to I can do this. And through that, you're branding yourselves. And by when other people look up to you, then they'll be like, oh, this person has a really good mindset. Let me try and get tips from them. And that will just create a cycle. And that's something that we need, especially in the African continent, a cycle of positivity and a cycle of like-minded individuals who have the mindset of I can.
That's a good point, Afu. And you are saying you cannot be able, like Mercedes is saying, where does one start to brand themselves a solution? You cannot be able to brand a solution when you yourself, you are not exhibiting the attitude for a solution. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so without a change in attitude to start thinking right and doing right in preferring solutions, even having a social media platform will be short-lived because there will really be nothing to showcase, because you must start with you and then you bring the you into these spaces. Is that right?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Big time. Now, Khalid says, you read.
Khalid says, harnessing digital connection for social impact is about utilizing technology to connect people, amplify voices, and mobilize resources and efforts towards creating positive change in society. By leveraging these connections, we can empower individuals, address social issues, and promote a more inclusive and equitable world. I think that's a really, really, really good point, and it's like a very relevant point, because by using social media, we can connect people, but also we can also divide people. But through using it for social impact, as we've seen with various social justice movements like BLM, environmental issues, climate change, all of those stuff, it has also empowered individuals and addressed issues, and it has promoted equity within all aspects. So that's a great point.
Let me just add to that. I think building on what you've said, Afu, I mean, amazing that harnessing digital connections, as Khalid have said, and thank you, Khalid, for that. That digital connection for social impact is about utilizing technology to connect people, amplify voices, and at the same time mobilize resources and efforts towards creating positive change in society. And that we need to leverage these connections so we empower individuals, address social issues. But the point then is, are we forceful and vocal enough to say, let our young people use these spaces to show what they do to create positive impact through showcasing solutions to the problem, rather than only voicing the gaps without necessarily showing the opportunities that they themselves bring? And I think that is a very important point, because inclusive and equitable world is needed. And the architects of these are the young people, because they are the foot soldiers that I would call in operationalizing every solution, from chemicals to waste to pollution to nature to climate solution, pollution solution, nature solution, chemical solutions. Need the youth to do that, and we must use these spaces to speak and provide solutions. Then there is
Frederick Aqua says, I think most of the youth are using social media as a form of entertainment, as it is just a portion of using social media. Our approach to social media as a youth in embracing the platform must change. We need to change our way of using this vehicle as a bad means of expressing ourselves, but also a means of advertising and selling our brands. That's
yes,
really good,
yes.
and I think
Let me
that
let me come in, and you answered. You said, he said, as a means of selling the brand, and you have argued that a brand doesn't come overnight. It comes from first you, the individual, then you take it to a platform to sell. Which is which?
What do you mean?
What I mean is, which is which here in terms of leveraging social media to advertise and sell brands? Do the youth need to focus on branding themselves with what they have done, or just jump to social media and start telling stories? Which comes first? Focus on retooling skills, which is the essence of innovative volunteerism, or jumping to social media and making noise?
Well, I think that obviously social media is an important part of it, but at the same time, it needs to start from within. Because, for example, imagine if you're selling what's beside me, pencils, and you've never used a pencil in your life, and you don't even believe that this pencil's gonna write your way to 100% in your exams. Like, you don't believe that this pencil's gonna do anything. That's number one. We need to retool that and a mindset change. We can't start advertising this pencil on social media without you, first of all, trying it, believing in the pencil, believing in the product, and having a positive mindset towards business and towards enterprise. So I think that it first has to start from within, and believing in yourself and believing in your product. Then through social media, whether your post on the pencil gets 100,000 likes or 2 likes, if you start by believing in yourself, you won't let numbers or you won't let the exterior facade of social media impact you and your personal brand. So I think that branding should come first from within rather than branding on social media.
Yeah, actually, Leah is saying that branding should come first, I think. Yes. But like Afu is saying, branding should come from within, because you can only offer what you have. And if what you have is toxicity, then definitely what you brand will be toxicity. Is that so?
Yeah, that's 100% correct.
Afu, before we move to Khalid, the point here, what I want to say at the moment is something we've said in this forum, and we'll keep saying it because it's important. What is the role of the so-called influencers in this negativity space?
I think that many influencers, like I mentioned previously in my last point, they are doing it subconsciously. Like, I don't think it's any influencer's goal to go out on social media and make people feel bad about themselves. And I think that it has nothing to necessarily do with the influencers. It has something to do with digital literacy, because you can't get mad at somebody for posting their best life when that's the whole purpose, when that's part of the purpose of social media. You can't get mad at someone for posting their first class trip to Switzerland while you're living in Ojuelegba, because that's the whole point of social media. So
What did you say? Please, what did you mention?
if you caught that, you caught that. But
Yeah,
moving on.
you're a lecturer. Yeah, please emphasize something around that.
Anyways, but so you can't get mad at influencers for living their, you can't get mad at people for living their best lives, but at the same time, you have to critically think that this person's always traveling left, right, center. How can I do this? And those people who are traveling left, right, center, they're probably traveling for a purpose. And on top of that, they are going and doing these things through their hard work. So if you want to be traveling first class to Switzerland too, you need to figure out what they're doing, which also brings me to my next point of mentorship, being transparent alongside influence and alongside consumers, so that many more people can have access to this lifestyle that's portrayed. And alongside that, if you don't have that lifestyle, you need to understand that it's not just 24/7 Louis Vuitton bags, 24/7 traveling first class. It's a balance, which some people don't portray, but that's the whole point of social media. And I think that the only way for us to achieve
The issue
transparency
is
is through
this,
mentorship.
the issue is that you portray what is real, right? That an influencer, the word influencing means shifting people's attitudes and behaviors, inspiring ways in which people look up to. So it's more a role model sort of a position, because to be an influencer, you're influencing something. And influence means impact on people. It means influence, as the word is, impacting people's attitudes, changing in behaviors to align, and also instilling that sense that you are believable and you can be looked up to as a benchmark for something, regardless. So if what influencers showcase is actually what is not supposed to be the norm, then are we misleading? Because the point is not about, because an influencer is not anybody's name, right? It is just an appellation that it's like being a mentor. A mentor is not anybody's name. It's an appellation to someone who offers experiences to influence others to improve themselves towards betterment. And therefore, to influence, one must have the attitude to influence positively. But when the influence then comes towards the lens of a bubble of what doesn't exist, isn't that misleading? And that's my point. Do you think that the influencers are doing not necessarily what is supposed to be done? And if they're doing what is supposed to be done, they're not using those spaces to speak truth to power in terms of saying, hey guys, pull back. What you say on social media will haunt you down the line. But you can also make a name by inspiring others to create a society of not just equity, but one in which people get information that can change their life in a positive way. Are we there?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And we also have a point from Dr. Edwin.
Yes, he said the pencil example. And please use the pencil example. Dr. Edwin just celebrated his 40th birthday. Dr. Edwin, you are doing amazing work. He's an environmental health scientist and doing amazing work in Nigeria and Africa. and a champion of youth transformational solutions, and above all, a believer in African solutions for African problems. But after you use the aspect of the pencil, and I just want to say this, right? I want to bring a different dimension before I go back to Maxed Desai, to Michael says thanks, and I go back again, Michael Desai, and I think we also have Khalid. But this is the point here. The pencil can be used for so many meanings, and the example that you use as a pencil fits the bill here. But this is the point. We can take inspiration from the pencil because, first of all, that pencil you showed there needs to be sharpened before one can use it. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So sharpening the pencil is necessary, but the pencil needs to be sharpened to serve its purpose. And what is this purpose? Writing. Which therefore means that a lot of young people do say, oh, we are facing a lot of challenges. We are facing a lot of challenges. But they forget to know that challenges and hardships that we face actually sharpen us to be stronger and best versions of ourselves. Can you show up that pencil again? And therefore, that pencil, show it up. I need to see. Just hold it on screen as I'm talking. Show the eraser. So the eraser part is mistakes are lessons. And therefore, just like a pencil erases incorrect lines, and believe that if you are writing something and it is incorrect, you will use the eraser. So we should also learn from the mistakes and grow. And they are not failures, but they are stepping stones forward. And the other aspect that I think to use the illustration of that pencil is that that pencil can be used to write, right? You can write, I am Daniel Munang, you can do that. Which means that what? It means that we can use the pencil to create our unique story. Similarly, every moment and every chance for us to actively shape our life, it's just like using every stroke of the pencil can create something. And the other aspect that I think the pencil demonstrates is value. What is this value? The point is that the most valuable part of the pencil is not just the show it up. It's not just what we are seeing, right? It is the lead inside. That little thing inside, that is what is most important. So similarly, our character, our attitude, our mindsets, our spirits, our purposefulness defines us, not only our physical appearance. And why I'm bringing this up is now the last part then takes us back to this conversation today, which is that without the right character and the right attitude, what we will spur out there may start to represent us. Because then the output is definitely as a result of the input. And so if the output is bad, then it means the input is bad. Now let's get to this point. Thank you very much for that. I just decided to use that opportunity because that was a very brilliant example. Khalid.
So we already read the thing, but to answer the question, well, not the question, the comment, I think that's a good point because through technology, we have facilitated movements across the globe, whether environmentally, socially, and that has created equity within our world. But also digital literacy is something that we need to understand, like Khalid said, because without digital literacy, we'll be all over the place.
But who should provide this digital literacy when the so-called influencers and the creme de la cremes use the space sometimes to spur negativity rather than telling you, look, guys, I am here to tell you guys, use social media responsibly, right? Don't use it to abuse people. And I'll go back to your point on digital footprint, which is something that is not necessarily in the corridors of the discourse, or what I will call the contemporary discourse on social media doesn't bring at that aspect of digital footprints, which then can make or break. Now we get to Maxed Desai, where you say branding of mindsets and attitude comes first. Brilliant, Afu. Yes, Afu. So your point, Liat said the same. I think I already showed that. Then Maxed Desai comes back again. Read.
The social media space can be divisive, especially where contested narratives are involved. Is it possible to champion one's convictions without fanning divisiveness?
What do you think?
To answer that, I think yes, because realistically, what's an opinion without an opposition? So, and almost everything in our world is debated, even whether we live on a sphere. Some people don't think we live on a sphere, but I'm not getting into that. But I think that obviously it's okay to have opinions and it's okay to have varied opinions. But what we can't do is shame other people for their opinions and not listen to why they have those opinions. And we're not all made the same, and we haven't had the same experiences, so obviously by default we're not going to have the same opinions. So I think that it's possible to have discourse and friendly quote unquote arguments without having to create this divide, because I think that it's good that we're able to use social media to discuss our opinions. But what's not good is bringing other people down because they don't agree with the same party as you, they don't agree with the same laws as you, they don't agree with the same social justice movements as you. So
Yes, and that point on divisiveness is using social media needs emotional intelligence, and it needs some sobriety and soberness. I can imagine the other day there was this sport guy who plays for Napoli, Victor Osimhen, and he was actually one of the top scorers that made Napoli to
oh yeah, I
win.
saw this. Yeah.
Yes, but I think there were some slurs against him that he became annoyed, and that there was a whole barrage of messaging and messages that were actually supporting him and giving him the moral support. And they were coming not only from Nigeria, Cameroon, and others. And I could see others reacting that when that happened to Onana, we didn't see this. So what was the issue? And some were using very negative comments on those who commented to voice their displeasure against the treatment of Victor. So why I'm bringing this up is to the Marcel Desailly's point is that for those who found divisiveness, there is no need to respond to that, because then you will only further escalate the divisiveness and give that person a platform to vent and their vitriol and their vindictiveness of negativity. And so when you meet such characters online, what you need to do is to steer off, because definitely you will get dragged into a different lane that might not add value. So the answer is, to your question, which is it possible to champion one's convictions without fanning divisiveness? Yes, it's yes, because you have to come with your values. And you go back to the point of, if you do not have the attitude and the character to be able to brand yourself even within you without a platform, then you cannot take to the platform if you don't have something to offer. And if you do not brand yourself with the right attitude and the right perspective, then definitely you will take the wrong attitude to Instagram, to Facebook, to Twitter, and then definitely vitriolic utterances will continue. And that was a very, very good point. Then there is K Law Concepts, amazing, talented group of guys who are doing not just social media marketing, but they do events and at the same time also video editing. They're actually one of the best talented guys that I've seen around, leveraging social media for good and at the same time branding opportunities that are not only reaching millions of people. So K Concepts, Kevin and the team, you guys are welcome. Then we have Khalid, who said, your talent can take you to the top, but it's only your character that can sustain you there. What says Yofu?
Yeah, that's 100% factual, because a lot of people who are talented, especially in the soccer world, I'm gonna give an example of Mario Balotelli. I'm pretty sure that's his name. No, that's not his name. But like this guy who was on the Man City team, and he was a very talented soccer player, and his attitude. Oh yeah, that is his name, Mario Balotelli. So Mario Balotelli, he was on the Man City team, and he also played for the Italian league for a bit, and he's an Italian soccer player. But he was very, very, very talented. But the reason why his career didn't sustain was because of his attitude and some of his character traits, which were not very popular among the soccer/football community. So I think that's a good point, because whether it's in sport, whether it's academically, whether it's professionally, your talent can take you to a professional level, but then again, it's up to your character. Like, for example, an example of this would be N'Golo Kante. Everyone loves his character because he's so humble and just an overall, from the outside looking in, just an overall great soccer player with an overall great personality. So I think that it can, even if you're so talented, you're not going to get as far as somebody who's not as talented, but has a great character and who's also willing to learn.
Yeah, that's a very good point. The reality is that no two individuals can be the same. And that is why diversity is strength. People will behave differently, others will be cool and calm, others will be hyper. But what needs to happen is to look at the best that that individual brings. And one of the things that you've said that is important is aligning to what Khalid said. Yes, character is everything. And what is character? Because I think we misconstrue character here to only mean niceness. Niceness can also be taken as naivety. And you who is nice, without asking questions, without trying to understand issues, which sometimes asking questions and trying to understand issues, people could also say you are aggressive or that you are coming up like somebody who wants to know everything. But I think character here is about three things. Firstly, the attitude to be teachable. The ability to listen and learn when guided is part of exhibiting a character trait that can take you forward. The second is the attitude to ask questions, to get answers, and to be able to search for answers for what you don't know. It's part of character. And the third is respect. And what is respect here? Know that if you cannot be able to listen to your superiors, regardless of where they are, and regardless of where they come from, and regardless of what age they are, then definitely you cannot be able to progress. And so the character of being teachable, of being passionate to learn what you don't know, and to ask, to be guided, and to be able to respect your seniors and elders, including your parents, becomes quite very, very important. And these traits are what I call the winning triple, which is being teachable, listen, learn, develop that burning fire to be able to have that attitude to search for more, and of course, being respectable to others as well as you respect yourself, and position yourself from the position of being on the pathway to grow and learn makes the difference. But the attitude of thinking that one cannot be taught anything because he or she already knows is already a character of failure. The attitude of thinking that one cannot indulge in innovative volunteerism to retool their skills and turn their passions into opportunities is already a character of failure. And therefore, developing the character of teachability is actually what I think everyone and the young people in the world should know. Now we go to this point from Marcel Desailly. Read.
Yeah, he says, Doc, you have raised a critical point centering social media responsibility and maturity. It is a two-way negative, quote-unquote, influencers should be balanced out by responsible consumers.
Right. So I think what Marcel Desailly is regurgitating here is responsibility and maturity flock together, right? And the fact that we have negative influencers, everyone who wants to become an influencer should strive to be a positive influencer to balance out the negative, because we have more negativity than positivity. Is that so?
Yes.
And the second?
He says also emotional intelligence / wisdom, critical prerequisites to maximize benefits of social media. Big time, Doc.
Excellent. That was a comment.
And last comment is, look at the best that someone brings. Profound statement, Doc.
Indeed, the best, because every human being have the good side. Even if it is 1%, I think we sometimes miss to look for that 1% of goodness in human beings. And then we'll focus on the negativity that only multiply the negativity that is already there to more negativity. We then create a very toxic environment, not just for the person, then make us lose out in tapping what that person could have brought, which every opportunity brought, talent brought, skill brought by more people create a groundswell of more solutions. And so if we see everybody in the world, the over 8 billion citizens, as citizens that can do something good, that have an ingredient of good in them, and focus on that ingredient of good, we will then make transformational development. If you focus on the 1.4 billion Africans and look at the good in each and every one of them, then definitely we can tap the best. Yes, this Afu.
Isidore says impressive, and I'm gonna switch the conversation to the part where I ask questions because it's almost getting to an hour, and yeah. So
Good. Over to you.
So what do you think your role on social media is? Because a lot of people consider you an influencer, influencing climate change. So how have you taken that role, and how have you empowered other people and tried to promote responsible consumerism?
You know, you cannot sell an imitation to someone who is producing what you are selling, and that person will take you as serious. So what am I saying? When you look at the social media space, it is the best thing that ever happened to humankind in the 21st century. And because one have it at his or her fingertips means we can utilize that space to inform, educate, and inspire. And so to your question, social media leverage it to inspire, number one, so that people can usher themselves into the solution space to tap opportunities in the climate arena and the environmental arena. Second, to educate them on the environmental solutions and, of course, also developmental solutions. And, of course, internal aspects that have to do with attitude. How do you leverage what you have to get what you don't have? Which, in this case, is how do we become passionate, regardless of the background which we become. We've come from. And the third one is actually to project what we do, the world, to see the opportunities, not just the challenges, and how can they be able to galvanize those opportunities to create a groundswell of solutions that instill hope. And let me just say this, because that's a very important question, is when you have a tool in your hand that you can inform over 1,000 people at a go within the split of a second, there is nothing anyone could ask more for than that. And therefore, the question then becomes, can we then use that to inspire? Because as we're speaking today, what I notice is that the world as it is today lacks what I call an inspiration gap. People just want to understand that someone was once in their shoes. People just want to understand that though what I've been looking and searching for answers, someone else have gone through it and he or she have answers. People want to understand that, yes, challenges are disguised opportunities. And if you can just use that social media to spur that information, you can touch 1,000. Imagine in a second touching 1,000 plus lives. Isn't that magical? And that, so I've leveraged that opportunity to inspire, educate, mentor, and of course, motivate those who are willing. Over.
That's a good point. And I think that you covered that point during your speech, your keynote speech for the UON graduation for the School of Bioscience. And for those of you guys who haven't seen that speech, Dr. Manang ended it off with, if you take one thing from this, I was once like you. And that really struck the crowd, because as people who are in different stages of life, some people forget that they were once like us. And I think by you mentioning that, that was a very good way to relate to the crowd and engage the audience, that despite me standing before you today, I went through the late night research projects. I debated dropping my course. I had to deal with difficult professors. I had to undergo all of that. So I was once like you. And yeah. So my last question before we wrap up is, how do you think, what are your thoughts on Africa using social media with local resources and using the older generation as a tool in social media? What are your thoughts on that? Because social media can even be used to link somebody in the village to someone in the city. So what are your thoughts on that? And what are some implementation that one could use to do that? Yeah.
Very, very good point. And I will use the example of what we have done. Understanding that the work we do, where we are on environment, is what is needed today, because environment is a solution to food insecurity. It is a solution to the economic crisis that many countries do face today. It's a solution to health. It's a solution to youth unemployment. It's a solution to security of even a country. But these things, we do have them, and we have the science that is informing the policy. But yet, we have an apathetic youth who over 60% of them are unemployed. And they do not want to hear the jargon of all these things that we do. So what I did was to then be able to leverage social media to communicate the solutions that environment do present. And that is how the advent of innovative volunteerism as a tool that everybody can be able to be part of to turn their passions into profits by retooling their skills and learning how to turn simple agricultural waste into fuel brigades that replaces charcoal and put money in their pockets, fabricate solar dryers that can be decentralized. So your question, to answer it practically, is that leveraging social media and engaging young people on social media and reorienting them to tap into the space to seize opportunities in environmental challenges has actually not just become a wildfire across the continent, but have rejuvenated and created a groundswell of young people who are solution providers today, and they have carried the messaging of innovative volunteerism into their communities. And as we're speaking today, if you go online and put hashtag innovative volunteerism, especially on Twitter, you are not only going to see solutions in Eastern Africa or Central Africa or Western Africa or Southern Africa, you are going to see voices and testimonials of how simple hashtag leveraging social media has created transformational solutions in communities. But more importantly, people are yearning for positivity. And leveraging social media, I've been able to communicate inspiring messages using my own story. Like you rightly put it, I was once like them. I was once like you. I was once like you is not just a sentence. It is actually a rejuvenation, a reawakening that each and every one of us have to pass through stages. And that in every stage that we pass through, we have to write our story, because that story might be someone's motivation tomorrow. That story might be someone's reawakening to rediscover his or her purpose. That story might just be what is needed to usher everyone to action.
Yeah, that's a good point. And before we wrap up, Frederick has a comment. And as we're wrapping up now, leave your comments, leave everything, because or else you got to wait till next week. So Frederick says, social media has allowed us to reach and connect with many people in the world whom we do not know and never met in person. In regard, many communities and individuals are leveraging on it to tap into opportunities. Example, getting employment, schools, etc. I believe that the positive impacts of social media outweigh the negativity, so we need to harness this digital connections. I'll take this. So I think that's a really, really informative idea, because that's real. Because look at it now, like a lot of what's it called? A lot of jobs now are remote. A lot of jobs now are doing interviews over platforms such as Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and meetings that used to be in offices are now taking place from your bedroom. So that's, I think, and also from the academic perspective too. Like when I was applying for like high schools and stuff, the interviews were supposed to be in person, but I did them online. So that's a part, and I feel like through social media it's really changing the game, because now a person who is living, for example, in Brazil, who has a meeting in Switzerland, does not have to spend all those hours finding flights and everything. And also it allows you to connect with people who have the same mindset as you, not only in your community but across the world, and it allows you to create a global community rather than just a community in your city or in your town.
Very good point, Afo. Let me just add to that. And I think this is actually a closing point, which I think we cannot allow it to pass. And I think Frederick said something very important, that social media allow us to reach and connect with many people in the world whom we do not know and have never met in person. I think this is the best and the biggest opportunity. Who in the 80s and 90s, when we were studying in the 90s to the early 2000s, could be able to connect with the CEO of a head of a UN agency online and be able to have a conversation? Today, millions of people do, and young people do. I can imagine how every day in my inbox on LinkedIn, I get over 200 plus messages, and I try to respond to many, and I give guidance to many. What am I trying to say here? That's an opportunity to be tapped. But this is the point I want to advance, and there are two aspects. The first is, when you meet people on social media, never ever assume that you people are at the same level. It's a mistake that you bring to the fore. The fact that you are connecting with that person at that point, whether the person is a president of a country or a minister or a head of an agency, always know that you people are not equal, and therefore bring yourself from a value perspective, not from a complaining perspective. And do not start asking for jobs immediately. Sell yourself. Say, this is so and so. What I'm bringing on the table, I am a specialist on this, and this is what I can offer. And please, if you have an opportunity that I can offer these services even for free, I am willing to. You've already elevated yourself to the point of a solution provider, not a toxic asset. When you start telling the person you meet on social media immediately, especially on a professional profile like LinkedIn, that, oh, I was born in a very poor family, I have not been eaten since morning, you should try to help. You are already projecting yourself from a liability, and I can tell you, you've destroyed the connection. And lastly, which I think is a very important point, social media, especially when you meet people and have access to them, make sure that what I've said before should be remembered. Sell value, bring value, not liability. Everybody have a story, and the fact that they don't tell the story of how poor they were and how they went to school without shoes and how they went to bed with their stomach aching of hunger doesn't mean that they don't have those stories. It's because they've chosen to project the opportunities they can offer, and therefore project opportunities and not liabilities, because you are not the only one who have gone through suffering. Many did, and they triumphed over that, and those became their experiences. Until then, over to you, Afu.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think that before we wrap up, I'm just going to say that that's a good point in the terms of, if you present yourself as a liability, no one's going to want to work with you. Nobody wants to work with someone who they're going to have to sponsor, who they're going to have to buy a meal for when they come, when they're going to have to buy them new shoes. Like, no, you have to present yourself as an asset, somebody who will provide value, somebody who had the skills and experiences to make the company or make the environment thrive, rather than being like, oh, so if I have to work for you, you actually have to pay my rent because I got evicted. Like, no, organizations need people who are willing to work and who are willing to be assets to their companies, because nobody wants to carry that liability. No one wants to carry that burden on their shoulders. So even if you are a liability, don't present yourself that way. So as we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching, and expect the unexpected. Good chat.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Afu. You've been, as always, an amazing host, and today conversation for all our listeners.
Yeah, this was over an hour, so you guys kept the conversation active, and we wouldn't have been here this long, and we wouldn't have had as an enjoyable conversation without you guys. So keep on commenting. Come back next week, Saturday or Sunday. We'll find out. Expect the unexpected. Live, laugh, love, innovative volunteerism.
Indeed. And for all of you who are watching, on behalf of my own self and Daniel, thank you very much. Very, very inspiring conversation, and your contributions made a difference. As we conclude, harnessing digital connections for social impact can make or break. But we believe that this conversation today, we can all leverage the social media space to spur positivity and inspire others so they can usher themselves to drive transformational environmental solutions. Until then, it was me, Richard Munang, and Daniel Afumbom Munang, my co-host. Bye-bye, and see you next time. Bye-bye.